The tsunamis had a powerful impact equivalent to about 23,000 atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and reached a height of 33 meters, sweeping away 160,000 lives into the sea, leaving 37,000 missing, and pushing 500,000 people into homelessness, destroying 800 kilometers of coastline. This is the devastating destructive power of the Aceh earthquake tsunami disaster in 2004 in Indonesia. Even after 2 decades, as many families begin to give up searching for missing relatives, infrastructure is gradually being rebuilt. Yet the people of Indonesia and the world remain haunted by the horrific pain that this natural disaster brought. How has the beautiful island nation of Indonesia suffered such devastation? And what are the causes behind this terrifying natural disaster? Let's explore with PEN Discovery Now. On December 26, 2004, off the coast of northern Sumatra, Indonesia, a series of earthquakes occurred, culminating in one with a magnitude of 9.1 on the Richter scale. This is one of the strongest earthquakes recorded in history, second only to the Great Chilean earthquake in 1960, which had a magnitude of approximately 9.5. The tremor lasted for about 10 minutes, and is also the longest earthquake that could be recorded at that time. But the disaster had only just begun. The horrific tremors beneath the ocean triggered massive walls of water that crashed ashore. In deep ocean waters, tsunamis are merely undulating waves, difficult to detect, and travel at speeds of 500 to 1,000 kilometers per hour. When they approach shallow waters near the coast, the speed of these waves drops to 10 kilometers per hour, but that is when their devastating power is unleashed. Scientists investigating the damage in Aceh reported that the tsunami, upon nearing the shore, reached heights of up to 24 meters, and when it truly made landfall, their height reached 33 meters. These waves, with their enormous destructive power and terrifying speed, not only swept away lives on the islands of Indonesia, but also spread to distant continents. The tsunami ravaged the coasts of Thailand, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and India. About 5 hours after the earthquake, the tsunami generated tidal surges of up to 1.5 meters that reached Struisbai in South Africa, covering a distance of 8,500 kilometers. As the natural tragedy struck, many Indonesian residents remained blissfully asleep after a peaceful Christmas with loved ones, but they were unaware that it was the last time they would experience such tranquility. Many people ran out of their homes as the earthquake shook their houses. However, they returned, believing they were safe from the approaching walls of water, and panic ensued, but it was too late. Eyewitnesses who survived the tsunami described hearing sounds reminiscent of 3 cargo ships or a large jet approaching. The tsunami claimed 160,000 innocent lives, most of whom were swept out to sea, and 37,000 people were never found. Some communities that once had 3,000 residents were left with only 100 survivors after the disaster. Many lost friends and family in just a single day. The psychological trauma following the tsunami, coupled with the anguish of not being able to properly bury the dead, began to grow in the minds of the people. Some even believed that the tsunami disaster was a punishment for Muslims. According to reports, 1/3 of the victims were children, as they are the most vulnerable to the violent waves. The number of female casualties was also higher than that of males, because at the time of the tsunami, most men were working in deep water areas, which were considered relatively safe. In contrast, women were present on the beach, waiting for fishermen to return and looking after their children at home. In addition to the local population, approximately 9,000 people, mainly Europeans, lost their lives. The tsunami struck during the peak tourist season on the tropical island of Sumatra. Visitors were enjoying the wonderful weather, exploring the sandy beaches, snorkeling and swimming. However, it became a tragic trip for countless lives, with famous beaches rapidly transformed into makeshift hospitals. International photographer and volunteer Chris Rainier, who arrived in Sumatra 2 weeks later, exclaimed, "Everywhere I went, I had to be extremely careful not to step on a corpse." In addition to the human casualties, the Aceh tsunami caused extensive destruction to the infrastructure of Aceh, including roads, bridges, hospitals, and schools. Buildings were flattened for miles, and unfortunate residents were swept out to sea. Only the mosques and the sturdiest houses remained standing. After the waves receded, all that was left were piles of rubble, with bodies covered in mud scattered everywhere. More than 800 kilometers of coastline was devastated across the archipelago. Some areas would take many years to restore their ecosystems and communities to their original state. To describe the scene of devastation, many people likened it to the city of Hiroshima after the atomic bomb was dropped. In fact, scientists estimated that the destructive power of the tsunami in Indonesia that day was actually double the energy released during World War II, including both atomic bombs. Just considering the intensity and energy from the earthquake itself, it was estimated to be equivalent to approximately 23,000 atomic bombs in Hiroshima. Survivors of the tsunami found themselves empty-handed within a matter of hours. It is estimated that up to 500,000 people became homeless after the waves swept through. Fishermen and those reliant on aquaculture lost their livelihoods as boats and fishing equipment were carried away by the raging waters. Even as the water receded, the conditions on land remained fraught with security risks. Diseases such as diarrhea, diphtheria, dysentery, typhoid, and hepatitis A and B became major concerns, particularly due to the high population density and tropical climate in Indonesia. Economic activities were paralyzed, and basic services struggled to provide water and food for the affected communities. Beyond the tragic loss of life, the double disaster inflicted long-term environmental damage on Indonesia. Ecosystems such as mangroves, coral reefs, forests, wetlands, flora, sandy hills, and groundwater sources were altered. Water pollution, the destruction of drainage systems, and processing plants posed unpredictable threats to the environment. Numerous wells serving local communities were buried under soil, sand, and seawater. The seawater also harmed vegetation and decimated various microorganisms. In the aftermath of the disaster, numerous efforts were undertaken. Barriers were constructed in Aceh to prevent future catastrophes. The authorities developed evacuation routes, especially in coastal areas. A significant factor contributing to the extensive damage was the inadequacy of the warning systems. Although scientists had alerted about the earthquake approximately 15 minutes before it occurred, no tsunami warning system was in place in Indonesia, a region struggling with poverty at that time. Indonesia established the Badan Meteorology, Climatology, dan Geofisika, BMKG, to manage and develop a tsunami warning system. This system utilizes a network of tsunami sensors and global positioning systems to monitor seismic activities and deliver early warnings in case of imminent threats. Indonesia has experienced many earth-shattering disasters. Yet, the Aceh tsunami of 2004 remains one of the deadliest natural disasters in the history of a country that faces numerous natural calamities. 2 decades later, efforts to improve warning and response capabilities have been made, but nature continues to challenge and inflict suffering and damage that this archipelagic nation confronts annually.